Let me just repeat this for the replay people who are just joining replay only. When we do the classes on Zoom, I kind of have less ability to track you and less ability to offer personalized modifications. So I'm just really inviting you to take care of your body really extra well today as you go through the sequences. Just tune in and check. If anything hurts, don't do it. And even if just intuitively you feel like, I know my neck and I know that's not going to be a good thing for me to do, then just don't do it. And you can do your own thing, camera on or off, and we'll get started. So I was thinking, because today's Valentine's Day, that it would be good to do some movements that sort of facilitate openness through the chest, just, by way of theme. And then if you follow me on Facebook, you probably read that I've been doing a lot of art. I'm taking an art therapy class this year. I'll shout out to it. It's called Lifebook 2024. I'm not sure if it's technically art therapy or just art, but every lesson has been like, you some kind of deep, like it's like 10 therapy sessions in one little art process. So if you're interested in that, it's not too late to join, but I've been doing a lot of this kind of looking down, like this sort of like this posture, and I'll get up and feel pink in my neck. And so I've had the opportunity to use my body as a lab and put on my yoga therapy functional trainer myofascial release hat to give my own body a program. So I'm hoping to kind of strengthen and hopefully ease some of those aches that come from that. So if any of that is you, or even if you just look at a computer, because this is kind of the same, like if you're reaching your head forward to look at a computer screen, that's going to have a similar pattern to what we'll be working with today. So just in case you don't know me well, I'll just say one more quick thing about functional training. So the idea with functional training is that as a functional trainer, I like create programs for, just kind of like a personal trainer would. Like a personal trainer would create an exercise program for you to get stronger at your sport. I create programs for people to meet the loads of life. So like, I'll train you to go up and down the stairs better, or get in and out of your car better, or those kinds of things. So today I'm thinking, how to forward head better, how to do things in front of your body in a way that's not going to facilitate pain and stiffness in the neck and shoulders. So I'll just say this one quick thing and then we're going to move. And that is that and we live in a culture that is in this pattern, but when your head is forward and your arms are forward and you're there for a long period of time, what tends to happen is this shortens. So these muscles get shorter, the fascia here gets shorter, and this gets weaker. So that's kind of like the two big things that we'll be working with today. So checking in with openness through here, and then finding movements that help to bring some strength or neuromuscular awareness into here. Okay. So very first thing, I'll just get you to give me a show of hands. Very first thing, does anybody relate to this pattern I'm talking about? So it would be a pattern of leaning forward, feeling yes, lots of tightness through the chest, and maybe some strain through neck, or maybe tightness through upper traps. Yeah, lots of you. Okay, I kind of felt like this might be something familiar.
And dog wrestling when training on a leash.
Oh, heavens to Betsy, yes, this was my day yesterday.
So more one side.
Yeah, especially with the new rescue. He hasn't been leash trained yet. Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole thing. That's definitely a whole thing. Yeah. Very, very relevant. Thank you. So good to know. So now let's work with this a little bit. So when we're in this posture, so we're in this pattern, one of the very first things that really, really, really helps is just simply to bring awareness to it. So what we're going to do, the very first movement we're going to do is we're just going to lift our shoulders up and lower them. And we'll do it maybe 3 times. And here's what the invitation is actually, let's do 1 arm at a time. Here's the invitation. So when you lift a shoulder up, can you find the place where you feel the muscling? Excuse my cat, so sorry. Like the efforting or the contraction to actually lift up. Can you find that moment? So I have to do this 3 or 4 times. So slowly float your arm up. And you can kind of feel like, okay, here's where there's not a lot of effort. And here's where now I have to like work to push it up more. So just feeling the difference of those 2 things. So flow, okay, it's easy to lift it up here. I don't have to put a lot of work in. I could actually just let it almost do it by itself. And then past that point now I'm using like, I'm muscling. And try that on both sides. So feel where that is for you. So much of this particular pattern we're working on today is what we call, the term is somatic amnesia, and I'm not, I'll just name that, I'm not a huge fan of that term. But it's like this idea that it's a doing you don't know you're doing. So much of this sequence is just bringing awareness to what you're doing that you don't know you're doing. So when we do this movement and we feel that place, what really begins to get helpful is that because there is that place where it's easy and you almost don't become aware that the shoulders are moving, creeping up toward your ear. So step 2 is now, and we'll keep doing it 1 arm at a time. So go ahead and switch back to your original. So for this next one, what I'm going to invite you to do is stop at that point where you begin to muscle. So even if you have to just go back and forth to really track, like where's that place where I can float the arm up and I don't have to work to put it there, but then we're going to hold. And we're going to hold it there. I like to hold it up to 10 seconds. Really trust your body here. You might begin to feel after like 3 seconds, like, oh, hold on a minute. There's something familiar going on. So anywhere up to sort of 10 seconds. And then you're going to slowly, 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 slowly lower it back down. When you feel like you've come to the end of the lower, can you actually let it go a little more down? Okay, let's do that 1 more time on this arm. So slowly float. So you're stopping before you get to like I have to push the arm up. We're just floating it up to where it feels easy, but then we're going to hold. Hold, hold, hold. And can you become aware of when the muscles start to feel tired from the holding? And tracking for anything familiar. And then once you've got that, slowly, slowly, slowly lower. At the bottom, can you let it go a little more? I don't know if you can see, but like I'm like looking at my shoulders and seeing like, oh, they're actually different heights. They've only done one side. Kind of interesting. All right, so I'm going to let you do 1 more on this same side. This time I'm not going to give you a lot of instruction because I really want you to go in and track. So become extra, extra mindful and curious. Float and hold. When it's time to let go, letting go as slow as you can. If you're able to look at your camera when you're finished, just kind of check and see, like, do you notice more space between your shoulder and your ear on that side you just played with? Something to invite in too, like to actually do this one with standing in front of a mirror. And you can even mark the mirror with something that you can erase easily, just to see where your shoulders are relative to your ears when you start. And then do this exercise and see what changes. And this is how we really begin to train that proprioceptive acuity, or that here's where I am, here's what I'm doing, here's where my shoulders are that I may have kind of forgotten about. All right. Anything interesting you're noticing, feel free to type in the chat. Let's go on to the other side. So, just because this side we didn't talk as much about, you can maybe take a little bit of time to really track that place where here's effortless floating up and here's muscling up, and really kind of feel into that, where that place is. And when you've got it, we're going to float and hold and feel. What do you have to do to hold the shoulder here? Is it familiar? As slow as you can, lower. Because mindfulness is such a big part of this, I'm just going to let you do two more, like mostly on your own, just so that you can really feel what's going on. So just on your own, let the arm float and hold. What do you notice? I'll give you maybe another 30 seconds or so. So either finishing the second rep or starting the third, wherever you happen to be. Whenever that feels finished, you can just kind of shake out the arms, wiggle yourself around a little bit. Maybe go into a bit of an arm swing. If you're new to this style of yoga, is we take in some of the principles of the tensegrity-based movement. And the main idea with this type of movement is that everything we're doing, we're incorporating the whole body. And we're going for making it as easy as we can. So when it comes to the arm swing, I'm really using the momentum of the swing itself to get the swing going more. So I'm not doing a lot of like muscling or efforting the arms up. I'm starting small and then letting a build happen all on its own. And you can kind of feel into how the whole body is helping the arms do the swing. You can kind of have one arm go all on its own, maybe lean over a little bit and feel that. A really good kind of functional one is to incorporate it into like a step. So if you have one foot forward, you can kind of feel like when you're walking, the arms are swinging, right? So you can feel into that sense of when I take the step, what's the natural swing? But then stay with that side and just rock and get into the feel. Is there a way to make that swing a teeny tiny bit easier on you? Yeah, you got it. And then try the other side. So just take a couple steps just to kind of feel your swing and your gait and how your arms move with your walk. And then when you've got it, I'm stopping and so I'm just kind of doing a little functional training here, but like really what we're doing is we're training our arms. We're reminding our arms how to do something they do all day long a little bit more efficient and a little bit easier. And just for fun, let's take like 1 minute and just walk around your room. And as you're walking around your room, just kind of feel what your arms do. And emphasize the arm swing. And every once in a while, just kind of stop and let the arm go. Let the arm keep going. This is another one of this pattern. What I'll often track in my own body is when I'm walking, I'm often looking down, especially in the winter, because I need to see what the ice situation is. So the walking and looking down can become a really ingrained pattern. So if you live somewhere icy, might be something to just kind of check in with. As you're walking, can you just kind of feel into how is it to have your eyes on the horizon? All right, when that feels finished, and come on back to your mat. See how we're doing for time. I have so many little exercises I want to show you and so little time, but anyway. I want to show you, this is a really key one. I want to show you a movement called head ramping. So I'm going to show you to the side. So if you're new to me, when I say ramp, I'll say that in multiple body parts, but we'll ramp our rib cage or we'll ramp our head. And what that movement is a combination of shifting, kind of tilting and sliding. So like think of it like a skateboard ramp. So what we're doing with the head ramping is I think of the jawbone as kind of like our skateboard ramp. So if the jaw is kind of flat, I can't really scoop my skateboard down it. So I'm going to first tilt that jawbone so that it's got a downward angle. And then I'm going to take my entire head and slide it back so that the ear is kind of over the shoulder. So I'm really exaggerating it just so you can see, but this would be the ramp. So we kind of like, I like to picture like a little skateboard at my TMJ, like a little skater dude is sitting right there. And then, so if I've successfully ramped, you can just go. Okay, so once you got your little skateboard ramp, okay. So ramping the head, I'm gonna just keep saying ramp your head now that you've got it. This is a really good movement for when you feel that you've got some of that tension creeping up in the back of the neck. So the chin can start to jut forward. And then you'll feel that kind of, well, you can even try that in mindfulness. If you just kind of jut your chin forward and without muscling it there, just kind of effortlessly float your head forward with the chin jutted out. And then slowly let your chin come down. Let your chin move in toward your throat a little bit and slide your head back. Okay. So this is a really important movement when you're feeling neck tension or shoulder tension, to check in to see where's the chin, where's the head, and how is it to just kind of ramp the head back. But like we did with the shoulders, you can probably feel that place, right? Where there's a smooth movement, there's an easy movement, and then there's the place where it becomes muscling. And it's really good to feel where that line is exactly. You need a lot of mindfulness, but when you can find that, it's a really good information. Neuromuscularly, it's really good information to have that. So you can play with it a few times here. So where's the beginning of like, oh, I actually feel stretch sensation now, or I feel muscle engagement now? Where does it feel just kind of effortless? We can do that with the arm raises, the shoulder raises too, but on the down. So that place of lifting the arms up, lifting the shoulders up toward the ears, and then feel the difference between muscling the shoulders down, like sort of push them down with my muscles and slide the shoulder blades down. And not to say this is a bad movement to do, it's great actually. But can you feel the difference between letting them not be holding up and muscling them down? Okay. And so this would be shoulder neutral, is what we're aiming for with shoulder neutral, is that I'm not holding them up and I'm not muscling them down. I'm just down, but not pushing down. All right. So have your shoulders neutral, ramp your head. And then see how it is to let your whole body just ever so lightly swing back. So I'll show you the swing. So here's forward, and I'm just going to shoulder neutral, ramp the head, and let my body swing back. So I'm kind of more over my heel. And you can swing forward and back a few times to find that. I'll maybe explain a little bit more about why this is good when we get to the Q&A, which is something good to find. What I want to do next is come onto our belly and see if I come kind of on an angle to be able to think. So can you all see me okay down here? Okay. So one thing that can be really helpful is once you're on the floor, to put your forehead down on the floor. It's a little hard for me to talk into the floor, and so I'll try to demo it and then talk. But what we want to do is from the floor, we want to ramp the head and then lift the head. So it looks like this.
Christine, I think you need to move back towards your wall a little tiny bit.
Okay, thank you. About here. I can tilt the camera down too. So maybe just look at me for 1 sec. So basically, when we do Locust and Cobra and Up Dog and all of those poses, what a pattern I see frequently, and if you're a yoga teacher, you're probably tracked for this, is that if there isn't a lot of motion available in the thoracic spine, there'll be this kind of looking up. So, which is a lot different than ramping the head shoulders neutral and lift. Versus, see the difference there? Okay, so now I'll talk you through it. So if you come onto your belly and really, especially if you're new to this kind of movement, go like as light as you possibly can. Little teeny tiny movements at first. So with your forehead down, can you feel that same movement you are activating standing? So we're ramping the head, but now we're in a completely different plane, so it's tricky. Your forehead, as you ramp the head, the forehead might come off the ground, that's okay. But can you feel that place? Where is it muscling? Where is there a ton of effort to lift the head? And where does it, okay, as a result of me ramping the head floats off the ground slightly. And then if you lower slowly, how's that feel? And you can incrementally, bit by bit, increase your range, just teeny tiny little bits at a time, until you're in something like a locust, or maybe a sphinx pose where maybe, but you don't have your hands doing the work. You're doing, your back is doing the work. And so you can also let the arms come up off the ground, but remember that effortless swing we had earlier. So that if you are coming into a locust and the arms are coming off the ground, is there a way to kind of link that back to the effortless arm swing so that it's head ramps, arms float. And then when you get tired, you slowly lower. Now, one thing that is helpful when we're in the upper trap pattern is to engage the lower trap. So while you're in your locust, you can also feel, if you kind of think bottom of your shoulder blades are engaging or squeezing toward each other at the very end of that movement, that can be a really good one too. So you can go back and forth between those two types of movement. Effortless floating. And then where's the point where it's now muscling? And then can you go into that and hold and feel and slowly lower. I have another face down one I want to show you. I learned this one from David, who's was my long time. I met him when I was 18 years old. Long-time yoga teacher, and this is my favorite thing that he ever taught. I love it, love it, love it. But this is my go-to when I have like a kink in my neck. So, you know, those mornings you wake up and you cannot turn your head. This is my go-to for that. So how it looks is you position your arms, so you're stacking the hands one on top of the other, and then forehead comes down. So you can just start by resting here. And then what we do with the movement is we're going to head ramp and lift so that the center of the forehead is over the hands. I like to think of this like I have a laser pointer coming out my forehead, and I'm gonna laser the forearm and the humerus bone, and then I'm gonna laser it back down. So it would look like this. That's step one. It's really tricky to demo this in over Zoom, but you get the idea. So imagine you have a laser pointer coming out the center of your forehead. You're going to ramp the head. And then you're going to just laser, and even just lasering your forearms with the head ramped is probably a lot. If you want to go further up, that one, if your neck is sore, that one can feel a little sticky. So if that's you today, maybe not the best to force it. So just go where it feels like you're still able to slide the head back and forth. So here, I'll just kind of show you from here too. Phase 2 is super tricky, so you might want to watch me for a second, and then I'll talk you through it. So phase 2. Phase 2 now changes it in that I'm going to put the laser pointer now on the back of my head, and I'm going to attempt to draw the laser down my arms. So I'm going down the arms and up, and so you're kind of leading with the back of the head with this one. So laser pointer comes out here, and then I'm going to turn. So super tricky to figure out how to do it. And yeah, I'll name that it took me like years to really kind of get it. So don't worry if you're not getting it immediately today. For those of you who like this particular movement and find it effective, I can send you the pictures out of David's book where he demos it, so then you can kind of see it better than trying to see me on Zoom. So let me know, I'll send them to you. Yeah. Yeah, that looks great. Della's got it. Yeah, yeah, Della, your ponytail is like your laser pointer. Excellent. Yeah, Jen's got it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, those of you with ponytails, that must be a secret. I'm gonna try that next time. So if it feels, so when you wake up, so in those days you wake up and the neck is kinked and you just cannot, you don't have full range. You can't turn all the way. You can't turn and look all the way one direction. The weight of the head, I mean, the head weighs like, I don't know, 10 pounds. I can't remember the exact, the head is heavy. So we're doing this is a load. But if it's too much on your belly, the way to lighten it would be to do it standing. So you can stand and put, oh, now I have to bring the camera back up. You can stand and put your hands on the wall. So like you can just have one arm, one forearm on the wall and do it one arm at a time. So I'll show you from the side. So pretend I have a wall right here. So I would just do one arm at a time and I'll lean my body, my whole body, I'll lean in to the wall. And then you can do your laser pointer one arm at a time. And this is like a really great way to lighten that load, like take it down 4 or 5 notches. So it's quite a bit less load. But those days where the neck is like, ow, this is a really good way to relieve it. So you just bring the arm to the wall, you lean in, and you do your laser pointer. Probably the best way to, like if you're going for release, that's probably one of the best ones. However, one more, speaking of laser pointers, which I don't really have access to demo, but I'll just tell you, and then we'll do some yummy passive stuff, is if you actually do have a laser pointer and a headband, it's a fun exercise to do, to tape your laser pointer to your headband and then take a piece of paper and tape it to your wall and draw a clock. It doesn't have to be all 12 points, but you can even draw a circle with north, south, east, west. And then you're going to close your eyes and see, like, pretend draw your laser pointer around the circle in front of you, and then open your eyes and see how accurate you are. So that's probably the best way to get your proprioception, like your system, to come closer and closer into accuracy. If you don't have a laser pointer, or the laser pointer you have just doesn't stay on, or it just doesn't work, another one you can do is put a piece of tape on a mirror, like a long, like sort of down a piece of masking tape down the center of your mirror, and then put a piece of tape on your nose. And then you line up the tape on the two tapes. And again, you would do movements with the eyes closed and guess like how, okay, now I know I'm lined up. I totally have my nose is lined up with the tape. And then you open your eyes and you're like, oh shit, I'm not even close. So it's a really, really good kind of like biofeedback for head and neck proprioception. So I'll just give you that one to play with for homework. But why don't we do one little passive backbend here before we wind down? Because we've done so much little neuromuscular awareness type movements, which can be like brain exhausting. So let's give our brains a break. If you've got a towel or a folded blanket, you can use this. If you've got your myofascial balls, you could use those. If you don't have anything, here's a great little hack, is if you've got socks on, you just like take your socks off and roll them up into little balls, and then you can have a little ball under each shoulder blade. That's another really great little way to do this. But I'm going to show you with a blanket. So if you lay down with the blanket or a folded towel, if you don't have a blanket, where you want to place it is so that if you find where your shoulder blades end, you want the blanket like just the edge, maybe a 1 inch lower than that. Maybe not even. Kind of just right at the edge of my shoulder blades is the bottom line. And then the top. So now, in order for me to bring my head to the ground, I'm going back into that pattern. So I don't want to do that because I want to keep all that nice head ramping I was working on. So then you might want to put like a pillow or something. What we're going to do from here is we're just going to check that the neck doesn't feel super strained. So we can really, feel into, is there any tone? Is there any activation in the front of the throat? And is there a way to subtly tuck your chin without any muscles coming on? You can even put a hand there and feel. And you tuck your chin without muscling the front of the throat. The FCM muscles specifically, but all of them. And then arms come out to the sides. And you can feel that just that little chin tuck without muscling. Yeah, you'll notice it's, depending on where the arm is, it's going to feel different. Can you chin tuck, keeping the front of the throat soft with the arms up? Nope. Maybe with the arms out, maybe with the arms by your sides. And then you can experiment with creeping higher up. So I'll give you some time to play with this. Really, you're going to creep your body up and down your blanket until you've found oh, this is like a just right place for my blanket to be on my back and for my shoulders to relax and to be able to tuck the chin without a whole bunch of muscle engagement in the front of your throat. And I'll name that this one's tricky because it's subtle. The movement, that chin tuck we're going for is super, super, super subtle. Yeah, that's great. And you can continue inching your body higher or inching your body lower on your towel or blanket until you've found a place where, you know, you just kind of intuitively get this, yes, this is where I need to be. And keep twinking until you've got that. One thing, I'm going to give you some silence to just kind of enjoy it. But one thing I want to say first is that when we go into a pose like this is what we would call a corrective movement. So we're doing sort of all the way to the opposite end of the spectrum of the pattern we've been working with. So I want to name that sometimes going into a corrective, the body will resist it. So if you're finding this kind of like intuitive, like no from the body, but also yes, I should be here, what I'll invite you to do is play with easing it off a little bit. Is it like, I think of it like couples counseling, like, can you find a compromise? You know, the mind might be saying no, the body might be saying yes, or vice versa. And can you find a way so that you're getting even mostly yes from the muscles, from the fascia, from the mind, from the nervous system? So what do you need to do in order to have more yes on all fronts? Sometimes what I like to do with this is just because like the chest doesn't necessarily want to be super open, I'll put a folded blanket on top of my chest just so that it feels like it, it gives it that little bit of like, oh, okay, I can still be safe if there's a pillow here or a blanket here. So you might have to get creative. All right, I'm going to give you one more minute to hang. When you're feeling finished, and if you don't know me, I'll just say you're always welcome to stay in a passive pose for like 5 minutes longer than the rest of us. So open invitation to stay as long as you need. If it does feel finished, to come out of it, what tends to be best is to roll onto your side and then scoot off your blanket so you're all the way on your side. So be like coming over onto your side, but the blanket's still there. And then I want to scooch all the way off so that I can just kind of hang out in a fetal position. And then once you're there, you can move the blanket out of the way, or just maybe that blanket is now going to be your head pillow and you can come back on your back so you're flat on your back. And here's where we just want to kind of check in with how's the whole spine now. So if you hug your knees and just kind of feel a little bit of compression in your back body, you can rock back and forth. If you know your happy baby pose, this is a good one, kind of right after that one. But if this feels like, ow, holding my feet is not fun, you can always just hold the backs of, like, put your hands on the backs of your legs and let your legs float. If you have a strap, you can always put a strap around the legs and do it that way. There's lots of ways to do this, just to kind of give yourself a gentle compression. And then rocking to give yourself a little massage. Should feel really nice. Not a lot of effort, just yummy. And because we did a little, we did a passive hold, which is really fascial. I want to do something just to kind of get movement back to the shoulder blades. So for this one, we'll just do something really light. So you're just going to bring your arms up, your palms facing each other. You can look at me if you're not sure. And then we're just going to lift one shoulder off the floor and lower it. But thinking back to how we started, like, where's the place where I'm lifting without a ton of effort, and where do I really reach and muscle? And can you keep it in that range where it's effortless? Just go maybe 5 times each side and then shake it off and think and rest and notice. And we'll go into some really light head turns. So again, if you roll your head from side to side, where is the place where it's easy, like almost like fluid? The neck just moves. And one side might be freer than the other. So 5 head turns. And then just, again, shake it all off and just think and rest. Notice what's here now. Now we're going to combine those 2 movements. So we'll just do one arm at a time this time. But what we're going to do is just raise so how we had the one hand coming up. So we're just going to do that movement on one side only. And so I'll just give you a left-right cue for a second, and then you can go to doing it whichever way you want. But I'm going to do left arm. So left arm lifts and head turns to the right. And you want to see if you can get those happening in a system. So almost as though the left arm is what's turning the head to the right. Can you get that effortless? Almost as though lifting my left arm makes my head fall to the right. And then switch. And then you can shake it all off and relax. Depending on where your neck and head and all of the tension is today, you can leave it just like that, or you could do both arms. So you're just kind of, one arm's just sort of passively hanging out. And as you're lifting the left arm, the head's falling to the right. As I'm lifting the right arm, the head's falling to the left. And you can go, I was doing that really fast just so you could see it, but typically I'll actually do this a lot subtler and slower and more mindfully, just to really feel. Nothing moves in isolation in the body. Everything moves everything. So one arm at a time or two arms together, whatever feels right and good. And then you can shake it all off and just let your body melt into the ground for a bit. Like typically when we do yoga, we end with this shavasana time, which is just that like just the total melting into the ground. So we'll give you a couple minutes to do that, and it's really important because this is where your nervous system now actually can make the change. It's like this is your update time where you can integrate all those little neuromuscular holding patterns. And now the nervous system can update any of those files. So taking this time to just melt and rest, so important. Give you a couple minutes. It's okay if the mind is wandering, it'll still work. Is there a way to release maybe 1% more effort? So any effort the body is putting in to hold, and you give that over to the floor. And just letting the floor do the holding 2% more. And maybe for the last 30 seconds or so, you can check in and find your own percentage that feels right and true in your body. You can just like test a couple numbers out. Like, could I let the floor do the holding 10% more? Can I give over that holding? Can I let go and rest maybe 15% more? And like find the exact right percentage that in this moment feels true and right. Like, oh yeah, like 47% I could let go. Or maybe it's 15%. You'll notice pushback, like if you go to like 100 and then your body tenses. So you'll notice that, right? So just play with that for a second and find the just right number. Really enjoy that amount of rest that feels right for another maybe 30 seconds more. And when it feels like the right time for you to bring awakeness and energy back in your body, you can begin to, maybe you want to just very subtly jiggle, or maybe you want to hug your knees into your chest and compress your body for a big hug. I want to do the self-compassion meditation process with y'all. So for that, and if you're somewhere really juicy and you want to do that meditation laying down, definitely nothing wrong with that. And if you prefer to meditate sitting up, now would be the time to transition over to seated. But either way, it'll work either way. So you can just choose. This is one of my favorite meditation practices to work with when there's suffering in my system, or when there's struggle, or things are not feeling easy. I like to think of it as, oh good, you got a beautiful release. Yay. I like to think of it as, when all is well, it's really easy for me to be compassionate to other and understanding to other people. And when I'm liking myself, it's really easy for me to be, even a little harder, to be compassionate toward myself, understanding toward myself. But it's when I'm, beating up on myself or being critical of myself, that's when it's really hard. In those moments, it might be easier for me to be compassionate to somebody else, harder to be compassionate to me, or vice versa. Sometimes it's easier to be compassionate toward yourself and harder to be compassionate toward another person. But I think of it like training. It's like functional training, but on this level of doing it when it's easy over and over and over, so that I can apply it when it's hard. So it's a 3-step process. And the first step is mindfulness. The first step is to step into a quality of being curious about your internal experience without judgment. Just whatever is happening on the inside of you, can you name it? If you're not sure, just maybe ask yourself the question, like, what is something true for you? What is something that's true about your experience in this moment? What is true? Maybe it's true that your shoulders feel more relaxed. Maybe it's true that your shoulders feel more tense. That would also be okay. But just what's true? So step 1 is really just naming what is your direct present moment, embodied here and now experience. You can give it a name like, oh, I notice sadness, or I notice blissfulness, or I notice ease. And I just want to give you permission here with some words. If you're new to me, I want to say to you that you can trust your own experience of this moment. You really can trust your own experience. So step 1, we just name what's here. This is a moment of and it's okay. Which leads you right into step 2, which is common humanity. So it's Step two is like, yeah, it's human. This is a moment of human sadness, human blissfulness, human whatever. And what's so beautiful about step two is to consider that all human beings at one time or another will have this same experience you're having now. Maybe not right now with you, but possibly. But somewhere in the world, in the however many billion people, there's probably somebody experiencing something quite similar right now. It's human to feel whatever this is. So step two is common humanity, and then step three is the permission to be kind to yourself. Whatever way that would be good. May I remember to be kind to my heart. May I remember to be gentle with myself. What would be a way you can express some loving kindness to you just for the next maybe 2 minutes in your own way? You really take your time with this third step. Seeing what would be, like, what's the best way that you can send some loving kindness to some part of you, even if it involves time travel and you're sending it back in time, or maybe to your future you. When it feels like the right time to close your practice, know that you can stay here longer if you'd like. When it feels like the right time, you can just start to bring some movement back into your body. Always a nice way to close is the intentional yawn and letting movements all on their own go with the yawn. Maybe a little check-in just to see how the shoulders and neck are. We did, quite a lot of awareness in there, so you can feel free to do a little self-massage. Maybe some thank you into those areas. And I just want to say too, when it comes to this pattern that we were working with today, this kind of like neck tension or shoulder tension or upper back tension or holding, that what tends to be most helpful is lots of mini sessions through the whole day. Like a 1 hour self-care that we did is great to do. And it's so good to kind of keep checking in. So if you even think like 6 times a day, this one that takes about 15 seconds. But this one where we just lift and stop before it's muscling, but we find that place where it's like, okay, I can float up to about here before I have to work. So float and then hold and connect your mind to what that feels like. It's like this light bulb moment of like, oh, I was doing this and I didn't know I was doing this. But to sort of intentionally put yourself there, hold, and then lower it really intentionally. It's like you're saying, okay, it's okay to lower. So that one that we did today, that one, the more times a day you repeat that exercise, the more you'll begin to notice, like the sort of all day long holding is going to start to really gear down over time. So that's the best one to probably do on the regular. Any questions or thoughts? Small micro movements can do for your body. Yeah. I'm glad you like the compassion. My favorite. And your neck and shoulders feel better. Good. I find this really effective personally. Good. I'm glad you feel neck tension relief. All right. Good. Well, I'm going to stop the recording and then we can stay and chat a little bit longer. If those of you who have questions or want to geek out on the science.